Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to look at a scientific paper that pretty much flips an idea on its head. What if the tiny flaws inside our technology aren't mistakes at all? What if sometimes they're the secret ingredient that makes everything work?
So let's just jump right in. You and we pretty much assume that for our devices to work, they have to be flawless, right? But what if that's completely wrong? What if some of those so-called flaws are actually there on purpose?
To really get this, we've got to zoom way in to the microscopic world of silicon chips. It's a world where the line between a flaw and a feature, well, it gets super blurry. This is the myth we all kind of buy into, right? We picture these perfectly etched surfaces where any single mistake, any tiny speck of dust would ruin the whole thing. But it turns out that's not the whole story, not even close. So, if that's the myth, what's the reality? How do you even see what's actually going on down there? Well, scientists have to become explorers in a world that's just way too small for any normal camera. They need special tools just to get a peek at this hidden landscape. This paper from 1994 really laid out the problem. And the problem wasn't just that these defects existed. The real headache was, how in the world do you find them, count them, and measure them when there are so many and they're just unimaginably tiny? And that, right there, is the big question these researchers were tackling. How do you map something that, when you look at it, just seems like total random chaos?
And their answer, it wasn't just get a bigger microscope. Nope. It was to look smarter. It was about creating a whole new kind of map for this invisible territory.
The paper itself gives you a sense of just how painstaking this work was. I mean, imagine scanning countless little areas, these fields of view, one by one, just meticulously hunting for these tiny imperfections and writing down what you find. And this is often where the magic really starts. It's not with some supercomputer. It's with a simple sketch, a drawing on graph paper. This is the very first step scientists took to try and find a pattern in all that noise. The method they came up with is actually beautiful in its simplicity. To build this map, you only needed two pieces of information. That's it. First, how big is the defect? And second, how many of them are packed into a certain area? Just size versus density. And when they plotted those two things, they created what the paper calls a quantitative footprint. Now, think of that like a fingerprint for the material's flaws. It's not just a messy list of problems, it's a unique signature. A signature that lets you understand that whole hidden landscape. Okay, so you've got this rough sketch. How does that become a real, formal, scientific tool? And, what does it actually tell us about these defects? And here you see it. That initial hand-drawn sketch gets transformed into a proper scientific chart. It's the same core idea, but now it's a repeatable, predictable tool. It tells this really clear story. You can see the relationship between how big a defect is and how many of them there are. It even shows you the limits of what you can physically see with the equipment. So this map, it does way more than just point out where the flaws are. It actually reveals the rules of the game, the fundamental rules these defects are playing by. It shows that their existence isn't just random chaos. No, it's a predictable system. And, of course, once you can predict something, you can start to control it. And that brings us to the biggest question, the whole point of this. Why go to all this trouble to map these imperfections? Now, if you're thinking the goal is to hunt every single one down and get rid of them, well, you'd be wrong.
And this is the absolute key. The entire point of this research was never to create a perfect, flawless material. The real game changer here is learning how to manage the defects.
I mean, the paper says it flat out. The goal is the management of defects as allies. Allies! Get that? Some of these so-called flaws are actually helpful. They can be used to make the materials stronger or to trap other impurities that are way more harmful. They're not a bug, they're a feature. A necessary part of the recipe.
So this just completely flips our whole understanding on its head, right? The myth is that you need zero defects, that the goal is total purity. But the revelation, the reality, is that you just need to know them. You need to understand their footprint. The goal isn't purity, it's control.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? If some of our most advanced technology actually depends on embracing imperfection, what other flaws out there are really just essential features we haven't understood yet?